You're listening to the Being Stellar podcast, the podcast for modern leaders and entrepreneurs who are tired of hustle culture and ready to invite more ease and more prosperity into their lives. I'm your host, Deborah Stellingwerff, master teacher and coach, and I am obsessed with helping you avoid burnout while you create a sustainable lifestyle full of possibility and profit on your terms. On the show, you'll hear inspiring stories of possibility, and you'll get empowering strategies and insights from me to support you in creating your stellar life. Welcome back to the show. Today I have with me a very special guest I'm really excited to introduce you to. She has been helping me with the process of branding and rebranding that I'm going through. And today I'm going to share with you some of her magic and also the big announcement that I am rebranding this show and the name of the show, and we'll get into why that is a little bit later. But for now, let me introduce to you my friend, branding expert, brand coach, Laura Beauparlant. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Deborah. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Me too. Laura and I first met when we were at a W North conference last year and had a great conversation over dinner, and then another one the next day on the gondola up at Blackcomb. And I was just really struck by how vibrant you are and colorful. And I think, you know, you look at your brand and your colors, and you are your brand, and your brand is you. And it's just, I was so inspired when I met you, and I knew that I was going to work with you eventually. And I'm so glad that we're having this opportunity to work together now, and also to have you here on the show. So let's get started with you just telling a little bit about who you are, what you do, what's your magic in the world, and how did you end up there?
It's such a great question, and yet sometimes so hard to answer, because it's like, where do you start? So in terms of what I do, somebody described me in this way, and I feel like it sums it up beautifully. She said that I see into people's souls, I pull out the best of them, and then I bring it to life in words and visuals. And I just thought, wow, I could never have come up with that myself. And I absolutely love it. And that's what I do. I see people, I really understand who they are, and I help them express that to the world. I do it through the lens of branding and design. But really, it's about people fully expressing themselves and creating a business that deeply aligns with them so that they can be their brand and their brand can be them, just like you described for me. I want that for everybody. I don't want branding to be effortful. I want it to be easy. I want it to be fun. I want people to play and have a business and brand that truly reflects who they are and then magnetizes the right people to them. So that's what I do. That's why I do it. I absolutely love helping people create something that so deeply aligns with them and allows them to share their gift with the world. To me, I'm all about creating this ripple effect through everything that I do and impacting the world in so many ways.
And this is why we were so much in alignment, because you take this slice of what it is to be a business owner, the branding piece, the representation, and it's about helping them to fully express themselves. And I do that behind the scenes work. It's like you do the public facing stuff, how you're showing up, what people impression they're having of you. Whereas I'm doing the behind the scenes stuff. It's like, let's get you really, really stepping into that and becoming fully who you are. Cause it's one thing for someone else to see it. And as you said, other people see it so much easier for us, right? I mean,
absolutely.
I do a lot of this work with other people, help them to see who they really are and who they can become. And I also needed your help to be able to really fully express what I want to express in the world, because it's harder for us to see for ourselves.
Absolutely.
What other people see and what other people are attracted to. And so I just love that idea, and it's so resonant with me, of expressing yourself in the world. And you know, we talked about zone of genius, and I talk about that a lot on this show, about the importance of living in your zone of genius, because when you're there, you're happy, you're energized, and you're making your biggest impact in the world. And clearly you're in your zone, right? And you are making such a huge impact in the world with your work at, your company is called Lab Creative, and you're doing such amazing work there. And I'm wondering if you could tell our listeners just the story about how you got there, because often people look at what others are doing and think, well, oh, that's fine for them because she's all that. She's colorful and vibrant and smart and witty and funny and tells great stories. And it must have been really easy for her to get there.
Oh, yeah. I think we always think that. We always think that, oh, that person is so much further ahead than us and I could never get there. And we all have our own journey and our own story to get us there. So I've had two really big events in my life with a lot of other events going on, but I'll start there because those were the catalysts in many ways. So when I was 18, I was in a head-on collision with a drunk driver and almost died. And I spent 2 years recovering from that. Lost a year of school and surgeries and kind of an unknown as to how well I would recover. And so when I did fully recover from that, I was like, okay, I've survived for a reason. And I didn't want to just survive. I used the word survival for a long time. And then I realized, no, I don't want to just survive. I want to thrive. So I lived abroad, I traveled, I started my own business. I did all of these crazy things that I was like, I've got another chance to do all these things that I might not have done, or I would have lost the opportunity had I not made it. So to me, that was a huge catalyst in who I became and all of the things that I've done. And then on the 20th anniversary of that car accident, I met the man who held my hand and kept me conscious when I was trapped in my car. And that was another huge event. That was almost 7 years ago. And I already had a business. I'd been doing that for 12 years. I had a custom wedding and event stationery business. And I was falling out of love with it. As much as I love weddings and love the industry, I realized it wasn't what I wanted to do anymore. And I still remember, fighting with my printer to address some envelopes for a client and realizing that exactly 20 years earlier, I'd been trapped in my car and having almost died. And I thought, this is the last invitation I'm addressing. I am meant for so much more, and I need to fulfill that. So that was really when I realized I wasn't living up to my potential. I wasn't living in my zone of genius. I was in sort of this, maybe a zone of competence. I was good at it, maybe even excellent at it. I was. But it wasn't where I was meant to be, and it wasn't the impact I was meant to have. And I went on a long journey of soul searching and deep inner work and discovery. And it was then that I developed Brand Camp. I created Lab Creative, and I left my old business behind, and I launched something new where I knew I could use my gift to help more people. And so I share those stories because I can't tell the second one without the first one, but that meeting and that feeling of like, ooh, I'm not living what I'm meant to do here in this world. That was a huge catalyst. And so that was almost 7 years ago. And since then I've, written a book and spoken internationally and done all of these amazing things, helped hundreds, but it was pretty scary to launch that very first thing. Let me tell you, I was outside of my comfort zone in a huge way.
Yeah, so great. And I'm so glad that you shared that story, because I think, and I imagine there'll be some of our listeners who heard the part where, you're in this car accident, you almost died, and what a remarkable story. That I didn't know that. And I'm so glad you shared that today. And some people will hear that story and go, oh, yeah, well, I've never had that kind of near-death experience, so I guess I'm not going to ever do something important or great. But I think that's really what I want to highlight is what you shared about 20 years later. Like you did have that. But those kind of experiences, the impact can fade over time for anybody. And so even if you haven't had that kind of experience, and I love that you shared the later experience of just fighting with your printer and realizing you're not in love with your your business anymore. And I used a similar analogy when I was leaving teaching, because I had been so in love with it, and I was now in this unhealthy relationship for me. And the same thing happened for me with real estate. It was for a different reason, it was unhealthy. And so we can all recognize those moments of going, this just doesn't feel right. There's something more. I'm struggling with myself. I'm struggling with other people just to be in this space. So I think that's the thing I want to highlight. That is your spirit telling you you're not in the right place. And yes,
the
it will
key
be
is
scary.
to listen.
Mm-hmm.
And move,
to listen,
and do something.
And move, and it will be uncomfortable because it's new.
Yeah.
But now look at you. You're really comfortable being an international speaker and an author and doing all the amazing things you do, and including moving your family to Italy a month or so ago. Tell us about that.
I know, it's almost 2 months now. It was September 1st. Oh my gosh, we were living in comfort, right? Like, talk about putting yourself out of your comfort zone. So it was January of this year. My husband and I are like having coffee on one Saturday morning, sitting across from each other, our usual routine, which we love. And he forwards me an article about this, about moving to Italy that he read. I was like, we should do this. And that was it. That literally that article, he texted it to me from like across the table. I was like, we should do this. And then it was like, oh, okay. So what would that look like? And how would we do this? And, we got the kids on board. We've rented our house. We got our visa. We finally found an apartment once we got here, which has been a whole thing. We've moved like 3 times. We just got back from 11 days in 2 different countries, traveling around, different languages, but it's, in some ways some days we're like, what have we done? Because it has not been easy. And yet the conversations with our kids and the experiences we're having together as a family, the fact that I'm, working half as much and my business is thriving and I have an amazing team that's supporting me, I can continue that when I come home, right? It's shifting the habits. So we were comfortable. We had a great house, great routines, all kinds of great things, but there were some bad habits that have been developed over COVID that were like, how do you shift out of that when you're in this comfortable place? Like, we have to get uncomfortable. And so we decided to just get uncomfortable. So great.
And there's so many parallels between what you've described as your experience and entrepreneurship, right? It's getting uncomfortable, trying new things. Like, it's great, and sometimes it's really hard, right? You're learning, that's what I do in my work, is helping people with that language of leadership, the language of business, learning that. Yeah. And you're having to learn that as an entrepreneur. But the gold nugget that was nestled right there in the middle of Laura's story that I want to pull out for our listeners is that she didn't say, but we don't know how to move our family to Italy. She asked the question, how do we do this? And there was a tone there. And often people in entrepreneurship will say, well, but I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to be an entrepreneur. I don't know how to do branding. I don't know how to make a website, whatever, right? I don't know how to make a sales call. Instead of asking the question, how do we do this? From a place of curiosity, it's like, let's figure this out. That is the magic ingredient for successful entrepreneurs, is to be in curiosity and willing to go out of your comfort zone and stay curious instead of getting fearful. So great.
We asked, people asked us all the time, why are you doing this? And we said, why not?
Yeah,
because
right.
We can.
Why not?
We can work remotely, right? There was no we were like, oh, the kids' education. We're like, well, that hasn't exactly been amazing. We can't do any worse, honestly, than they've experienced in the last couple of years. So if that was our only barrier, it wasn't a barrier. And they've learned more in the last 2 months than they've probably learned in the last 2 years.
Yeah, I remember the other day you said that your kids have been in travel school for the past 2 weeks, right? How amazing is that? To give them that gift of perspective. And often at this point in the interview, I ask my clients, or my guests rather, what is your relationship with fun? And you've really been showing that. And that's one of the things that I was drawn to you, is that there's this, this quality of playfulness in how you approach your business, how you approach interactions, how you're even approaching this trip, this adventure you're on with your family. There's this quality of play and curiosity. And if we could just bottle that and sell it, we have entrepreneurs who would just be, let's do that, right? Because that is a magic ingredient that's so necessary for entrepreneurship. I don't always get it right. I mean, play is not my default. Perfection is my default. And that freezes me up. So can you talk about that a little bit? Have you even, again, we might be listening, go, oh, she's got that. She has play all figured out. And I think that there's not a woman on this planet or a business owner on this planet who doesn't struggle with perfectionism at some point or other. How do you handle that?
Sure. I have perfectionism in me in certain areas. And in other areas, I'm like, that is great. That's good enough. And let's do it. So I think it's a balance. So there's certain areas where I really do demand, I guess, perfection, but it's the nuances. It's in subtle things that a lot of people might not even notice. And I don't have it all figured out. I struggle with things just as much as everybody else. I was at Legoland last week with my kids and cramming myself into this tiny little, thing with my kids and watching them play and have fun. And then we're in the section where they're building stuff. And I was like, okay, now I'm bored because I'm just not a Lego builder. I love it. I love looking at it, but I'm like, okay, can we move on now? Because I was like, this isn't my place, but so it's a balance, right? And so some things I'm good at, but fun and adventure are two things that are really important to me. Something that I worked on late last year was, what do I really want out of my life? How do I want to live each day, every day? And I start every single day in my journal reflecting on, what do I want I have 8 words that I want from my life. And I'm like, what am I going to focus on today? Is today about impact? Is it about adventure? Is it about creativity? And I really focus so that I'm going into each day intentionally focused on how I want to show up in the world. Not every day is going to be fun. Not every day is going to be full of adventure. But some days I might have an amazing impact. Might have beautiful connections with people. It might be filled with love, right? It could be about wealth or vitality. What are the things that I want? And that's me also sharing my gift with people. If I can be focused on how I want to show up, I can help others do the same.
Okay, so that is so beautiful. And what I really love about what you've just shared is that I had a conversation yesterday with somebody and I asked, what do you want? And she responded, I don't know. And I think that's I know that's very common. And I actually have a rule that I don't allow people to use the phrase, I don't know. Because when you say, I don't know, your brain shuts off because we don't know. So let's not think about it. And so I love it that you have set yourself up with, you've got 8 words that are your answers that you can pull from on those days where your brain is just groping for something. And you've set yourself up for those moments. You can pick, what do I want today? And you've got a selection to choose from as opposed to sitting there in the void going, what do I want today? And I think that's important in the work that you and I both do with our clients, is giving them that language to hook their ideas onto, to hook their identity onto, and to anchor them in those moments when you're like, I really don't know today.
Yeah. And I think I really wanted to create this for myself because I felt like, I don't know if it was time was speeding up or it was slipping by. And with my life experiences, that was like, I was like, that can't happen. Like, it's really important for me to live a really intentional life that we've designed. You know, a phrase I came up with years ago is, I'm designing my life. Now, I'm not the only person to say that, but I'm like, how do I want to live my life? We say that every day is a good china day. Why save the good china for once a year? I want one set of dishes. I don't want to have to bring out fancy dishes that I then have to hand wash. I want to eat off of and drink out of good china every day. Because why wait for someday to pull that out? Yes. So it's that being intentional about, you know, even the way you described our interactions, that to me is so important to me. It's about relationships. It's about connecting with people on a human level. And that as technology increases, AI, all of these advancements, one thing we can't take away is our humanity. And so from a branding perspective,
and that's what
you and your
I have learned from you
are a key element of your brand.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because it's like the key element of your brand and your purpose, no matter what you do, whether you're a realtor, a coach, a consultant, I don't know, a photographer, you own a ballet school, like no matter what you do, you're doing your work in the world to impact and help other people. And it is all about, at the core of it, human connection, right? Yeah. And so let's talk a little bit more about, there's so many things I want to ask you. There's so many threads I could pull here. But I do want to get into the work that you do with your clients I'm in your brand camp. We've been doing this work about our personal identity, our brand identity. And just tell us a little bit more about that and the kind of clients that you work with and what you're wanting to create for them.
Yeah. So I come from a design background. So I studied graphic design a long time ago. And what I realized is that the design work will only get you so far. And so I have this written right on the back of my book. It says, think first, design later. And so even though I come from a design background, I believe that you can't design until you've done the deep work first. So many people come to me and they might have a nice looking brand, might be, you know, they might have hired somebody to even do it for them. But if it's focused on the design and not on the core, on that foundation, then it's going to look and sound like everybody else, and it most likely won't align with you. It might look pretty, it might look professional, but you're like, those photos don't really reflect who I am. I didn't dress the way that I want because I felt like I should look this way. You know, I often tell the story, I used to straighten my hair because I thought people would take me more seriously, right? But when you change those little things, I look back at photos and I didn't smile with my teeth. My hair was straight and I was very reserved, you know, like, and so now I look at photos and I'm like, oh, okay, that's a different person. That's the real Laura. The straight hair, not pursed lips, but like closed lips, closed body language. That was me hiding because I thought that's how I needed to show up. So when you really show up as yourself, then we can create a visual brand for you that aligns with that and has longevity. So when I created Brand Camp, which you're in right now, that's about the foundation, the essence of you, the heart and soul, what makes you different, so that we can create a visual brand that aligns with you and positions you differently. And our clients look different, sound different, and have a brand that doesn't just meet them where they are, but it takes them where they want to go. I don't want to create a brand that fits you perfectly right now, because that would be doing a disservice to you. And what I noticed is when I implemented Brand Camp, our design work got better. And none of our clients have rebranded in 6.5 years. They've updated, maybe they've tweaked some things. They've added a program, a podcast, a book. We've, revamped a few things, a new photo shoot, but nobody has needed to do a major overhaul because we got it right and we built something with longevity. So maybe there's more of an upfront investment, but you don't have to reinvent the wheel every couple of years or be embarrassed by your website or your brand or not post on social because you don't know what to say and you look like everybody else. So that's why I created this, because I could see that Brand Camp was sort of the gateway that allowed entrepreneurs to be like, oh yeah, this is me. This is who I'm going to be in this business. And it's just going to attract the right people. And it does.
So good. And what you said when you started just now, you said, think first, brand later, or think first, design later.
Design later, yeah.
Okay. Think first, design later. And when I first got into business, my first business was as real estate. Actually, that wasn't my first business. Because my first business, I was a makeup artist, and that was long before I was a teacher. And I didn't realize I was an entrepreneur. I just thought I was lazy and I didn't want to have a job. And so I was a freelance makeup artist, and so I traveled and lived in Italy. So I'm so jealous of where you're at right now. But you said, back to the point, you said, think first, design later. And I know when I got into real estate, I wanted to design my brand. I wanted to be all creative and let that creative expression. And I had really great advice from the managing broker, or I think it was somebody at the broker said, don't spend time on your brand right now. Just get out there and start working. Do the job. And it's great advice, because I see that when I have newer entrepreneurs come to me, they're all fussing about the brand. It's like, in some cases, if you're a service-based professional, just get a basic website, and keep it simple. Get out there and start doing your job. Figure out who you want to be. And because for me, it's been a while. It took me some time to get to a place where I was ready to work with you. Now, some people are ready right out of the gate. We have some people who are new to business who are working with you in Brand Camp. Yep. And some of us are just taking some time to figure out who we are. And I'm really glad for me that I took the time, because who I am as a coach has changed over time. I've gotten clearer and clearer about who I want to work with, where I want to focus. Now, I probably could have gotten clearer on it if I worked with you sooner, but I never take the easy route. And so I think that's just an important message. Think first. And that might mean just doing your work first. Do the work. And then do the investment in Brand Camp. Or something like that, because you may need to spend some time figuring out who you are. But the key message there is, in that time, be asking yourself, who do you want to be? Not who do you think other people want you to be? Straight haired and no smile, right? So.
And I think for me, the think first is Brand Camp. That's the deep work, right? So the design is, I would rather people invest in getting some clarity around how they want to position themselves differently, because to go out and try to get clients and get business, so many people don't even know how to talk about what they do. And so they're missing opportunities. And yes, that brand will evolve. I'd rather you invest in that deep work and put up a very simple website, get some great photos, and get that language in there, and invest in design later. Because to me, if you don't know how to articulate what you do, or you say, you're confusing people, or they've lost the plot and their eyes are glazing over as you're describing it, then you're going to miss those opportunities. But if you have a really succinct, exciting way to talk about what you do, and like you said, it may evolve, and it will. Everybody's brand evolves. I say it's a living, breathing thing. It's not a static thing. If you think it is, then, you won't grow, and it will always evolve. And sometimes, we call it evolution, and sometimes it's revolution. Sometimes people come and they're like, we need to throw it all out and start new. And sometimes they've got some good pieces, and maybe they've even got a decent visual design. And we're like, okay, we need the messaging cleared up, and then we need to figure out, how do we merge these two things? And so it's not always a clear direction. And sometimes people are like, do I need a new logo? I'm like, I don't know yet. because I don't know you and who you are and what makes you different yet. And sometimes we go through brand camp and we're like, you know what, this fits with the language, this fits with the direction. And sometimes they can already see there's a misalignment and we need to now redesign the brand. So when I say think first, that's that deep inner work that is the foundation. And then the design is like, what does this brand look like?
You know, and I've shared with you that my first draft of anything has too many words. And so that's been one of the biggest benefits of me working with you, is to reduce the number of words that I use to explain what I do. I'm a teacher. So when I say what I do, I want to give everybody everything and explain the whole process. Yeah, the dissertation. And what they really need is just the soundbite. Just here's the tagline is what we do, right? I help people to opt out of hustle culture and opt into possibility and profit.
Yeah.
Easy, right?
And so you say something like that and people are like, oh, please tell me more. And then they lean in, right? If you give them the dissertation and give them all, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed. Yeah. But you say something like that, 10 words or less, they're going to be like, oh, opt out of hustle culture. Hell yeah. How do I do that? I want to opt in, I want to opt out, and I want to opt into this. So that is when you'll catch people, the right people. Some people might be like, no, I'm good. That's not interesting to me. And they're not your clients anyway. So exactly. This work is just as much about repelling the wrong people as it is attracting the right people.
Absolutely. And part of this process for me has really brought clarity to who I want to work with. And I'm already working with amazing clients. And again, it was like, well, they have this characteristic and this characteristic. They have all these things. And Laura has really helped me to say, well, these are the characteristics, right, that we're looking for in clients that work with me, who are open-minded, growth-oriented. They've done some personal growth already, because I'm not interested in personal growth light. And I'm as interested in who you become on the way to your success, on the way to your profit, as that you get those results. Because we can get you the results. But if we just focus on the results, you're not going to be fulfilled at the end of it. And I think that's so parallel to what you do, right? We can focus on the results. We can get the brand, we can get the logo and all of those things, but it's not going to do the job because it hasn't taken into consideration the process of getting there.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
So it's not a full expression of you. And you and I are both about the full expression of the person. And this is why we're so aligned. And I've been so blessed to have our lives intersect and to work with you. It's just so magical. And I just want to drop a hint. I'm going to get into this in another episode that's coming out, that we are rebranding the Stellingwerff project. And that was an idea I had already before I started working with Laura, but I didn't want to do it until we'd actually done the work together, to make sure that it wasn't me just like, shiny objecting, but what I've realized in our work together, that yes, this is more important to me, is like who you become on the process. My upcoming book is titled From Possibility to Profit. It's not just about getting profit. It's about who you become and what's possible for you on the way. And so I'm rebranding the podcast from the Stellingwerff Project to the Being Stellar podcast, because the Stellingwerff Project is about doing. Being stellar is about who you're becoming.
Yes,
and I'm interviewing amazing guests like Laura, who are being stellar in the world, who are expanding and stepping out of their comfort zone, who are doing magic for other people with their gifts. And we'll continue to do the same kind of teaching I've done, but we've just put a new, I think, clearer title on it that is really exciting for me. And so I'm really glad that you are a part of that, and that I wanted you to be a part of me announcing that this is where we're going. This is the direction we're heading with the podcast.
I love it. And congratulations on
Thank you.
the shift and the growth and, exciting things in the, that you're creating, that you're being in your life and your business.
Yeah. And it's been really, really amazing to do brand camp. And if you're an entrepreneur who is struggling with your brand identity and you're not really sure who you want to be in the world, we can both help you in different ways.
Yeah.
But reach out to it. But specifically for branding, definitely I would say get in touch with Laura. Check out her book. It's called, I'm sorry, I've completely blanked. What is your book called?
Brand Chemistry.
That's right. Brand Chemistry, which I totally love. And if you look at all of her branding imagery, this like the chemistry of color, it's color chemistry and color, all comes together for her. It's just so exciting. And so, keep an eye on what's happening with my branding over the next little bit, because we're in an evolution. The change of the name of the podcast is just the first step in that evolution of that rebrand. And I'm sharing with everybody that I'm doing it because I want you to see the process and be aware that this is happening and I'm going through this. I'm kind of pulling back the curtain that I'm doing this and why I'm doing it. It's part of putting myself in position for scaling and making bigger, broader offerings to the world of what I do. So yeah, so watch out for that and definitely check into Laura. So Laura, it's been amazing talking to you. We could go on, and I think we may have to do another episode when we talk about, because I want to actually talk to you about your team and how you set that up, because we were in a mastermind group together, and at the time when you were planning for this trip and you were setting up for getting a team in place. But could you just give us like a short answer of what's the most important thing you discovered about putting a team in place to support you to do a big adventure like this, or even just to run your business? Never mind if there's a big adventure, just to give yourself some more space.
Yeah, and I've definitely made some missteps along the way, although my first hire is still with me. So Maria is the graphic designer who's amazingly talented. She's been working with me since I created Lab Creative 6.5 years ago. And now we're both working in different countries, and she is amazing at what she does. We work together beautifully. She just gets the vision for the business and is like, I have some ideas for like reels we can create. In fact, today she was going off and like recording some content for our social channel. So having people that believe in your vision and what you're creating, and your brand can help with that. So it can attract the right team members just as much as it can attract the right clients. I've seen that happen over and over again. So she's an integral part of my team and has been for 6.5 years. I've had different people in different roles over the years, but right now I have Maria and I have my new assistant, Brianna. And what I've learned about assistants is that I've often hired people that I liked them, but they were too similar to me. And I needed somebody who had the right energy and could bring the right, who would fit with that ecosystem that I was creating, but that was like super detail oriented, that could just do all the things that I really was not good at. And she's freed up my time to be able to be on this adventure, to be able to work less and know that things are happening as they need to be happening because she's taking care of it. So we're a small but mighty team of 3, and it's amazing. You don't need to have a big team. I always thought, the bigger your team, the more fancy, the more, that to me was a story I told myself. I want a big team because you're like, oh, you've made it. You must be super successful because you have all these people you have to pay. But that's not always the way. But really so to me, if I could have 2 amazing people who allow me to do my best work in my zone of genius, which is brand camp, which is speaking, which is connecting with people, which is going to events like where I met you, that's where I need to spend my time. And that's what I love. And so if I have other people doing those other things that supports me to do those things, I don't need a team of 10 people. I want the small but mighty team where, in our Slack chat, we're like, who's listened to the latest Taylor Swift album, and check out this, what's going on and we're like share personal things.
Yeah.
We share wins. We have a thing every Monday morning meeting. It's caught being awesome. Who did you catch being awesome last week on the team? And it could be yourself, but and even now my kids are have adopted that phrase. So now even as a family, we're like, you caught being awesome, mom, or so, it's so nice. Amazing because it shows just that you care about each other as people. And it comes just back to that humanity. I want to work with people, clients and team members who we're just aligned. We feel connected. We care about each other on a personal level deeply. And that's really important to me.
Awesome. And there's two takeaways there. One is that your brand will help you to attract the right clients and the right team members. And the other is, if your team members love Taylor Swift and you do too, hire them. I've just hired a new VA, and we were both like, we did our personal check-in at our meeting, and personal check-in was like, she shared she and her friend got together and listened to the new Taylor Swift album. I'm like, oh my gosh, I was away with my husband on the weekend, so I didn't get to listen to it till I got home because he doesn't like Taylor Swift. He's tried. I'll forgive him. He's got a lot of other good qualities. But yeah, so there's great criteria. If they love Taylor Swift, they're going to be great team members for me.
Look at that. Hashtag Taylor Swift. We need her to listen to this episode.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, I just love her. All right. Wonderful. So that brings us to the end of our time together, because I know you've got to go off and have your dinner. It's morning here for me, but you're in dinner time there. So wonderful having you on the show. We're going to end with some rapid fire questions, and then I'm going to ask you to tell people where they can get in touch with you, how they can follow you, and how they can work with you. So let's do the rapid fire questions. Ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. So, Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Wars.
Favorite place to visit?
Copenhagen.
If you were a color, what color would you be?
Magenta.
Magenta.
Like your top.
Nice. I thought you were going to say yellow. So, magenta. What a great word. Zodiac sign?
Capricorn.
Scariest thing you ever did?
Oh, God. I feel like I've done so many. That's a tough one. I think moving abroad the first time.
Non-negotiable self-care ritual?
Journaling.
Book you were most influenced by?
The Big Leap.
Me too. Another point of connection. So, if you were a city, who would you be?
I would probably say Copenhagen again. Isn't that funny?
Nice. Why? Tell us why. Because some cities were obvious. I want to be Paris because it's fashion and style and.
So, I lived in Copenhagen for 2 years, and I just got back from Copenhagen. It's beautiful. It's well designed. It feels like home. Yeah.
That makes total sense, because you're beautiful and design is important to you, and there's something that feels so friendly and welcoming, like home with you. So I get it.
Oh, thanks.
Something you haven't done yet that's on your dream list. You're actually kind of doing it right now, but what's one other thing?
I want to go to Australia. I don't feel like that's maybe I have a connection to Australia, and so I just have never been.
Nice. Now, as you know, we've rebranded. We're in the rebrand process of the Stellar Life Project podcast to calling it Being Stellar Podcast. But the Stellar Life Project is still my signature program. And it's a part of the work that I do. And it started off as a very personal journey. It was about me. I have to transform my life. Let's call it the Stellar Life Project and write a blog about it, which has become now a business and a podcast and all those other things. But if you were to call your life or business a project, what would that title be?
What are you dying for?
Wow, I get chills.
That's what I write every morning in my journal.
Yeah.
And those 8 words are the answer.
Yeah.
What am I dying for today? Because there's a double kind of meaning, right? What are you dying for? Like that just like,
Yeah.
what's your yearning, right? And then literally every day, you're closer to the end. I know that sounds morbid.
Yeah.
You know, but
one of the friends in my mastermind group, he asked the question, what do you need to do today to die complete? So it's a similar concept, right? Like I'm longing for it, you're dying for it, but also what do you need to do today to die complete? So I love that phrasing. What are you dying for?
Yeah.
And finally, you've heard the phrase, success leaves clues. If you were going to leave a clue for somebody who's coming behind you, who wants to create a stellar life, what's the one clue that you want to leave today?
Don't wait for life to happen to you. Make it happen for yourself.
Amazing. Oh, on that note, such an important thing to say. Don't wait for life to happen. Make it happen for you. You get to design it, create it, choose it every single day. Choose what you're living for. Choose what you're dying for. Laura, thank you so much for sharing your time and energy with me and my listeners. How can people connect with you? How can they work with you?
So you can visit our website, which is labcreative.ca. You can find us on all of the social channels. Lab Creative Inc. is our handle. If you want to talk about working together, I have a group brand camp that will be happening in January. You can get on the wait list on our website. I also do that work with people one-on-one. So check it out on the website and just reach out and, Laura at labcreative.ca is my email. Happy to answer any questions people have.
Yes. And Laura has a show called Live with Laura that is a YouTube show that she does. You do that pretty regularly, right? So
Yeah, pretty much every week. Yeah.
Yeah. So people can find you on Live with Laura on YouTube and learn the things about branding and messaging and, get a sense of who she is. But the best way to do that is just to have a chat with her. All right. So again, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.